Hey, Nickie Brown here. No matter where you are, no matter what part of the world you're in, I hope that you're having a good day. This microphone is not plugged in. It's just here for show. I didn't realize it was in the picture, along with my light here. Okay. I want to talk about passport bros real quick. There's a guy who has a YouTube channel called More to Life. And he did this video. Wait, let me see. He left a girl that makes $300K a year for a beautiful Colombiana and better treatment. 652 likes, over 11,000 views. This was May 22nd. Right? He sells coffee. We shout that brother out, right? And he just got finished making a statement. Apparently, he moved out of the country. I didn't know that. This is not my first time watching his channel, but I didn't realize he didn't live in the United States anymore. And he just made the comment, like, Western women don't know how to be that way or aren't that way, right? I don't know if you remember, Beyonce did that song, Cater to You. So, for me, that means that there are women who cater to their man in the West. And so I don't like when I hear that lie, that stereotype. It kind of makes me feel some kind of way because it's not true. And I don't know why Western women, and this is not about nationality, I don't know why Western women are all lumped into the same category. We are not all the same. Everybody's not the same. The guy that the topic of conversation, he said he was dating a nurse in California and she was making about $300,000 a year, and I guess they had gotten into it, and she said, well, you can get the fuck out, and he said okay. He said he went to Colombia and he never looked back. And so the guy who More to Life, or Jay, whatever his name is, he basically was like, oh yeah, guys, if you want to move to the West, because these type of women, they're looking for protection. So because they're looking for protection, they basically operate differently. Let me tell you, my longest relationship was 6.5 years, 14 emotionally attached. Total of 14 years emotionally attached to one another, right? But let's just focus on the 6.5 years actually physically being together. I did all those things, right? As a matter of fact, I call it playing house now. I learned from that situation. Now I call it playing house, and I'm not willing to play house because I learned from that situation. A lot of times guys will say, oh, you did it for so-and-so, so why can't you do it for me? Because I learned my lesson, and that was stupid for you to play house with somebody that you're not actually married to. But because I didn't have a woman or a man tell me that prior to, I just basically had to learn that lesson for myself. And we didn't actually live together, but he was at my house every day as if we did. And most of the time he spent the night and didn't even go home. Anyhow, 6.5 years, right? I actually knew he wasn't the right guy for me after 3.5 years. I shouldn't say that. Nope. When we started dating, one of the first things he said to me that was a red flag that this was not my husband is that you were stupid for having a baby. I had my son at 18. I think I met him 19. I was 21 or 22. Because my son was 4. Yeah, so 22. He was actually 3.5 years younger than me, so he was like 19 when we met. But he was a very respectful gentleman. He was Haitian, you know, he would open doors, took me out on dates, you know, all the proper things. So I didn't think anything of it. But like I said, once Once he really started to like me, that's when he said, oh, you were stupid for having a baby. Because, you know, usually, initially, guys are just trying to have sex with you. So, you know, once they get to know, well, in my situation, usually once a guy gets to know me, but anyway, so I pretty much kind of knew that wasn't my husband, but I still wasn't sure necessarily, but that was a red flag. So I just kind of kept a certain amount of emotional distance. No, I didn't, because after 3.5 years, I was pretty much all in. And point is, I made breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, except on weekends, because we usually went out on weekends, and then he would, you know, we would eat out usually on weekends. We usually did breakfast and then dinner. And my son always went to his grandmother's house or his grandparents' house on weekends. So I usually didn't have my son. It was usually just him and I, or I and his family, because, you know, foreign families really tend to do a lot more things together, and either southern families, but at that time, really, northern families had already kind of separated themselves from doing a lot of family stuff. Some still do, but a lot don't. But you do see it still more prevalent in the South. Of course, so it was my place, so of course I had to clean. But you know, I kept my house clean. I kept my dishes washed. You know, I kept myself up. Although there was a time where, you know, I gained a few pounds, and he poked me in my stomach and told me I was getting, you know, I was getting fat. So that was like the second red flag. I would rub him, you know, when he came to my house, like when he got off work, because I got off work before he did, or so whenever he came to my house, because that, you know, after all those years, he had a key. I would like jump on him. Like I would express my excitement that he was, you know, not home, but here, you know, to see me. Like, so I would jump on him like, hey, you know, I would just start hugging on him and kissing on him, and, you know, all of the things. So again, when I hear people say that Western women aren't like that, or Western women don't do that, and I know for a fact that I've heard similar stories from other women, again, it makes me feel some kind of way, because that's just simply not true. And after 3.5 years, he lost his job, and he started seeing a woman that he broke up with me, but never stopped coming around. Because just like, started seeing a girl making $80,000 a year. When I found out, he was like, oh, well, let me just keep seeing her so I can keep getting her money, and we can both benefit off of it. No, I'm not doing that. So no matter, you know, you can compliment, and you know, like when he poked me in my stomach and said, you're getting fat, like his flaws, I never said anything about. Never. I only said kind and sweet things, like, until he made me mad. Like when he poked me in my stomach and told me I was getting fat, I said fuck you, because that was one of the things that would make him mad, because he felt as if that was very disrespectful. What I feel is disrespectful, you would poke me in my motherfucking stomach and say I'm getting fat, dumbass. You don't say that. That's disrespectful. So if in order for a lot of women, in order to defend or protect themselves, they're going to yell or curse, because that's their defense mechanism. I may not be as strong as you, you know, you have more physical strength, so I can't beat you unless I pick up an object to hurt you. But because you said something to hurt me, I'm saying something to hurt you. But that's not good either. That tit for tat, going back and forth, no, you should leave at that point. I should have left when he said I was stupid for having a baby. And that kind of happened early on, so we would have never even gotten to that point. But like I said, during the getting to know you stages, he was okay with it, because he thought he was just going to hit it and quit it. But then once he got to know me, and he really started to like me, and he saw what type of person that I am, it was like, damn, you shouldn't have had a baby, because, you know, whatever. But If I didn't have a baby, we would have never met. Cause that's neither here nor there. I did all of the things because that's how I was raised. That's what I was taught. Like, a way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And just wanting to make, I'm just a person who likes to make people feel good in general. So if you my man, oh, I'm going all out. And I did just that. But again, nobody ever told me, don't do that for somebody who's not your husband. Don't play house with somebody who's not your husband. And so even if you do all of those things for a man, he can still cheat. He can still leave. He can still disrespect you. And all of the things. It doesn't mean that he's going to stay. It doesn't mean that he actually loves you. It doesn't mean that he actually likes you. It just means that you're satisfying, the things that he wants you to satisfy as a woman. And so he'll feel like he'll keep you around just to have his needs met. But that doesn't necessarily mean that your needs are being met, but he don't care. That's why a lot of these passport bros go to these foreign countries and get these women, because they're not going to complain. Now, they're not stupid. They're not stupid by a long shot. And they play these men. The men don't think that they are. Because like a country like Thailand, where it's, the cost of living, if it's $400 or $500 for American, that means they can find stuff that's even cheaper than that. Because they probably own their land and their house is built on it. And so they don't need much to really, they could go fishing, they could grow their own food. So the extra money that they had, they getting from you, they could just bank that for the most part, because a lot of them are not like materialistic like that. They know, but American women know that too. That all women have to do is dangle sex, and make the man feel a certain way, and for the most part, the woman can get anything she wants out of that man. It's not like women in America don't know how to do it. Women in America do it. And then when the woman cheats or sets him up in divorce or whatever the case may be, they're like, dang, what happened? Well, you led with your money. She not stupid. A lot of women are stupid. Y'all think y'all playing the women, but a lot of times the women just go along to get along. They know what the laws are. They're not, I only got to be with him for 5 years, and then I could get half. But then if I stay for 10, then I can probably get more. They know what's going on in the state. Everything. They know it. And so in the meantime, you cheating or you putting your hands on her. You think you getting over. She's stuck. She ain't going nowhere. She's just buying out her time a lot of times. Other thing is, some women are putting stuff in your food. And you don't know it. They're not just accepting that you're doing them dirty. They're not actually allowing you to get away with it. And then at the same time you're cheating, she's probably cheating too, because she know your schedule, because she know you're stupid. She like, oh, it'll take about 30 minutes over at so-and-so house. So I'm going to go over here, or I'm going to let so-and-so come over here. And, I'm going to do it that way. Or with the mailman, the milkman, or whatever kind of man, or the man at work in the storage closet. You know how many married men will have sex with an unattractive woman that they work with just to get their needs met? Because a lot of men don't care what the woman look like. They just want to put their meat in the hole just to get that relief. I remember I worked somewhere and there was 2 supervisors. And the one supervisor, he was like dapper. I mean, he was clean. He wore a suit every day. Nails manicured, fresh, line up, edge up, whatever you call it, shape up. Edge up, line up, shape up is all the same thing. Shape up, they say up north. Edge up, they say in North Carolina. Line up, they say in Georgia. I don't know. Whichever way, I might have it backwards. Anyway, Um, she was a supervisor, but she was one of those. There's a lot of people don't believe in astrology, but there are certain zodiac signs that don't necessarily care about looks. When I say that, I mean like they're not the type that really. They're like the homely type. Like when even if they go get their hair done, it look like old lady curls or old fashioned braids. Like they're never gonna like have like the modern, what they call them, goddess braids, bohemian twists and all of that. They're gonna keep it real plain and simple. And if they don't do that, 9 times, a lot of them, because I'm thinking about, there's a certain type. They have short hair, and even if they do it, it still be sticking up all over their head before the end of the day. Like it look a hot mess. They got split ends. I'm not trying to be funny. I promise you. But that's just not something that they care about. 9 times out of 10, they got money in the bank. But the looks, they dress real, again, homely. But in their mind, it's satisfactory. But it's not. It's very homely. I don't know how else to say it. It's very matronly, like not even conservative. It's not necessarily modest and conservative. It's just kind of corny, if that makes sense. I don't know. Like I would say my little sister could have been one of those people. Like she used to be one of those people until she started watching me to see how I dress. A lot of people who have been around me, like a lot of my friends over the years, I noticed one of my Dominican friends, and she's a lot older than me. She's old enough to be my mom. A lot of my friends, they call it Nickie Browning. Like, oh, what would Nickie Brown do? Or what would Nickie Brown wear? Or I'm going to do the Nickie Brown thing. Like, so a lot of people that have been influenced by me, they Nickie Brown now. So Nickie Brown, like, when Nickie Brown goes to the beach, she's going to have a big beach hat. And so Nickie Brown, their beach hat might not be as big, but they never, in all of her 60 years, she ain't never had a beach hat. But all of a sudden, because she's Nickie Browning, and you can tell she's posing the way that I pose, different things she's doing that I do. And I think it's cute. I love it. I'm not mad at it at all. Imitation is the highest form of flattery. And I'm glad that I was able to bring that out of her or help that come out of her by just being around me. I love it. But my little sister started Nickie Browning. But anyway, this lady, I promise you, she was a supervisor. But when she came to work, her hair would be all over her head. She looked a hot mess. Clothes too big, sagging. And she wasn't like a small girl, so she had a shape. But she looked sloppy. Like, again, clothes too big, just like hanging off. Like when his stuff was tailored, you could tell he went to the tailor to get his stuff fit to him perfectly to a T. Now they were both married, and I knew that they were messing around. Like when you know, you can tell. Like one day I saw them sitting next to each other, and I think she had her hand on his leg. So, and they pretended to look at the computer screen, but I could see that hand on that leg. So, and it was other little clues that I picked up on. They were always around each other, always asking each other questions, whatever the case may be. Well, they got caught in the conference room by one of the maintenance men one day having sex. And they both got fired. And I was thinking to myself, how did both of y'all go home and explain to your spouse how you got fired from a supervisor position at your job? I'm sure it was some lying going on. But it makes you wonder, so like, was his wife not doing something at home? Or did he just want to put his meat in the hole? Because a lot of times, even if a woman caters to her man, men still just want to explore their options and put their meat in another hole. Or these women just throw themselves and they don't know how to say no because some men don't have self-control. But it doesn't matter what the woman, if a woman could do backflips and bend over backwards. Someone I know too posted a meme. Well, it wasn't a meme. It was Love Dorsey. Love Dorsey said that, oh, some of y'all say y'all want monogamy, but you don't know what that involves. But some women do know what it involves, and they're ready, willing, and able to do it. But the men still do whatever they want to do. Especially with faced with a tough situation. It's survival of the fittest. So if they feel like they gotta use a woman for money or a place to stay or food to eat, that's what they're gonna do. Whether they love you or not. But I always say, if you love me, you wouldn't do anything to hurt me. So you couldn't have possibly loved me. But of course, men would argue that point. And they can argue that, but I still don't believe you. Because I feel like, again, for me, if I'm in a relationship, I'm not even looking at another guy. Because I know how insecure and jealous men can be. And I know they know that other men are thinking certain things, and that they find that woman attractive, they want. But that goes with trust. You have to trust the person that you're with. You can't just worry about what another man thinks or wants. Who cares? Because it's not about him and what he wants. So whether you know how he thinks or not, do you know her? And do you know whether or not you can trust her? That comes with getting to know her, which takes time. And a lot of times people aren't willing to do that. And my question is always, would you take your time to get to know somebody if it meant that you needed to be business partners and you were going to be millionaires after, and you can't have sex with one another? You wouldn't have a choice but to get to know each other. But most people will fail the test miserably. Because a lot of y'all don't know nothing about the person and y'all just having sex. I mean, to each his or her own. You can do whatever you want to do, but then don't complain afterwards and say you don't know why it didn't work out. You can't possibly not know why it didn't work out. That's just like if you eat unhealthy your whole life and you're obese or overweight, and then when you get in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, you wonder why you have diabetes or high blood pressure or some other health issue. How could you possibly not know that was going to eventually happen? It happens to everybody that is in that situation. I had a guy ask me recently, because he is on a health journey. He does his best to eat healthy and exercise, but his wife does not. He was like, oh, so when she gets older, I'm going to have to wipe her butt? Yeah, you probably will. Yeah, because you should. But see, my whole thing is, you knew this person was like that before you married them. And you still decided to marry this person. So yes, you have to do what comes along with that. If they weren't eating healthy and exercising before, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to all of a sudden just decide to do that, because most people don't change. And then if you try to pressure, like my ex-boyfriend used to try to pressure me into like working out and stuff, and then when I went to the gym with him, he would try to push me real hard like I'm a man. I'm like, I can't do all of that. That hurts. He's like, oh, no pain, no gain. No. That's not how you get somebody to lose weight. That's not helping the person. And so what happens is people tend to criticize and judge and tell somebody that they getting big, or you need to do this and you need to do that. And then the person just rebels against it, because you're not saying anything to help me. You're trying to kick me while I'm down. That's how it feels. So no, I'm not going to lose weight. And I don't care what you think at this point, because you approached it from a jerk perspective. And since it's coming from you, I'm going to completely ignore you. But see, people don't think about that cause and effect. You know, there's a gentle way to encourage someone to lose weight if that's what you want them to do. Hey, baby, let's go on a walk together. Or come with me. It doesn't even have to be the gym. Let's go for a walk together. Let's go for a walk as a couple, as a family, whatever that looks like. But see, a lot of times men will, they just want the trophy wife. So you just want her to look cute. And she gonna look cute. But once she get comfortable, she was already eating unhealthy. She gonna continue to eat unhealthy. And then, yeah, eventually you might have to wipe her ass if she gets it. Or vice versa. You might have to wipe his ass. But when you marry somebody who's already overweight or obese, or who, or who eats unhealthy and doesn't exercise, you have to know that at some point in time, that person is going to have some type of health issues. And I'm not saying that it can't happen to somebody who's not overweight, but if that person is not overweight and still eats unhealthy, there's still that potential. Now, people that eat healthy and exercise may still have something going on, but usually it's not like that. Like, like the diabetes and the high blood pressure and the heart disease and the kidney and the it's usually not those major things. Like, they may get injured while they're at the gym. But like I said, I don't like videos like this because it makes women be seen in a certain light. And before this video, I was watching another video that he said he did about women who are living in Japan right now, and how the Japanese men will just boldly be like, oh, I want to fuck, or can you suck my dick? Because they've been taught that that's how American women are, or American women just want to fuck. And so they made it up in their mind that, or they'll ask the woman out on a date and then drive to a hotel. And, because they are feeding into the stereotype that that's what American women are all about. And I blame American men. All women, and a lot of the women who are like that is because they rebelled against the system. It's like they've been hurt, or their mother was hurt, and they saw their mother be hurt, or their grandmother, or whoever. So it's like, and I'm going to take my power back. And instead of being hurt by a man, I'm going to just, be promiscuous and, control the situation that way. Then you have those who withdraw and, don't have sex at all. They're abstinent if they've had sex before, or celibate if they're still virgins. And they just, they meet somebody. If it's not going on the way they want, they just go, going about their merry way. And then you do have some who have success in relationships. A lot of women have success. A lot of people, men and women, have success in relationships, and that's great. But the ones, and some people think they are in a good relationship because, what's good for one is not good for another, because there are wives and husbands out here cheating. And so for me, that would be unacceptable. Like, some people stay. I'm not one of those people. And a lot of people aren't those people, because obviously a lot of people are divorced and not in relationships right now. And they choose to stay single. And, single does not mean that they're promiscuous. Single sometimes means that they're single and not having sex at all. Because they've done the catering and it didn't work out for them. And it's not that they're not willing to do it again, but they're just more cautious about it. And they're not ignoring the red flags, because that's usually what happens. Because people just want to be in a relationship, they ignore the red flags and non-negotiable behaviors. The relationships that I've been in, I've ended. So if I wanted to be in a relationship, I just could have stayed in those situations. I could have said, oh, I want you to marry me, and I would have got married and had kids or whatever kid. But that wasn't my husband. The men that I've dated in the past, and again, my fault. I'm not blaming anybody else. I chose wrong, or I allowed the wrong person to stay in my life for too long. Once that first red flag, like with my son's father, he used to want to play fight. That was a red flag. Another red flag. First of all, I should have never talked to him to begin with, and I avoided him for months. And then I finally gave him a chance because he made me laugh. But I should have stuck to my no. So that was my fault. He pretended to change for 2 years, and then he basically went back to the way he was before. So he made it seem like he wanted to be a better man for me and be there for our child, but it was all fluff. So again, that was the first time I learned a lesson. No, that wasn't the first lesson I learned. The first lesson I learned was not to cheat, because my very first boyfriend, he cheated on me, I cheated back, and him and his friend beat me up and raped me after. So you never know how somebody's going to respond. That was like my first life lesson in terms of dating. Then it was that one, because the second one with my son's father, that second red flag was we were supposed to be going to the movies, and instead he tried to take me to his house to have sex with him. And I was so upset because my mother wants to see a movie ticket. So why would you bring me to your house knowing that I'm going to get in trouble? You're not going to get in fucking trouble. I am. That was the second red flag. I should have left him after that. But again, that was my lesson learned. We live and we learn. He told me all the things. He would buy me flowers, give me, write me poems, buy me cards. At that time, there was a Brazilian or Portuguese restaurant that we would go to, and they would serve paella, which is a rice dish, and then they would have meat on this long skewer. The whole skewer would just be full of meat, and they would just slice the meat off onto your plate. And I was 16 at the time, so I was very impressed. To be a 16-year-old, in my mind, that was a very impressive date. And we went there several times. Even to the point when I got pregnant, he was like, "Oh, just act like you're going in labor so that we don't have to pay." Absolutely not. I think he was joking, but hell, I don't know. He could have been serious. But then, I told you some of the red flags with the other one. Even if you do cater to somebody, things could still go wrong. But I know now, like when I meet somebody nowadays, usually after a few conversations, you can see the red flags. So you can choose to ignore them or not. Anyway, that's my spiel. I hope that I provided you with some information, good information, that will be helpful and beneficial to you. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as always, love y'all. Later.